Hello everyone, this is Direwolf20 and welcome to episode 36 of Direwolf20's Let's Play series. I'm just getting set up to make a few capacitors. I think 2 octadic capacitors should do what I need. Thanks to the auto crafting system I set up last episode, this is a piece of cake. Just hit start and it begins. You can see here our crafting status is going. It's making all kinds of cool stuff for me, and it's probably currently crafting downstairs. I stole the octadic capacitor that I had upstairs already to place in here just to make this process of crafting more capacitors faster. I'll probably use one of the ones I'm crafting now to put back into the manual one that I use every now and then, but who knows, maybe I don't need that manual one so much anymore. Speaking of crafting things, it's pretty expensive power-wise to run this crazy AE system. Even with the crafting and everything we're doing right now, we're up around 226 RF per tick. Once those crafting machines stop, it'll drop back down a little bit, but we've definitely got a situation here where we need to start worrying more about our power production, and these 2 measly little magmatic dynamos are probably not going to cover us for much longer. So my personal plan is to go ahead and come up with a new way of getting power. So let's figure out what we can come up with. There's a lot of different ways to generate RF in this pack. I mean, there's tons of stuff you can do. I think where we stand right now with our current tech level and such, it might be a good time to go with a very efficient, though not renewable, fuel source. And, after we've, exhausted this fuel source, we might need to move on to another one. What kind of fuel source am I talking about? Well, I think it's time for a little bit of oil-based power, courtesy of Buildcraft. You can see I've mapped out where an oil field happens to be. It's not too far from my base. I think I showed that on camera at one point when I found that guy. I'm going to go over there and tap that oil field, transfer the oil back to our base, convert it into fuel, and then use some generators to create some power for us. Sound like a good plan? I hope so, because it's kind of the plan I came up with. So this system of the vats and the, all this stuff, it's working for us, but it's not working terribly well. Mostly, I mean, it's a great fuel source, and I love it, but the downside is that you need lots of redstone and gunpowder. And to be honest with you, like, I'm getting to the point where, redstone and gunpowder, getting a little bit nervous about that. So let's come up with a better system here. So I'm just taking a look here. Our combustion generators, we've got 3 of them at the moment working to get this thing running, and it's still not quite enough to keep this power running, at 160 RF per tick. Interesting. So while that's cool, I know the oil or the fuel that I'm going to plan to use, actually, it generates more RF in total, I think, than rocket fuel. Yeah, a little bit more RF than rocket fuel does. But it does so slower. It does it at 60 rather than 160 per tick. That's okay, though. Maybe the rocket fuel we'll stick with for the quarry. I don't know. We'll come up with something that we can do. Anyway, let's start the process. So in order to get ourselves what we need to get, we're going to want a pump. Now, have I yet taught this thing how to make certain things? Probably not. Iron gear. I know we're going to want one of them. That'll do. And also for the pump, we're going to want an iron pickaxe. And now we can make our mining well. Hooray! And then we can make a tank out of glass, combine the two, and we've got a pump from Buildcraft. We're also going to want some redstone engines, which I made and had trouble using in the past. So we're going to go ahead and just use the ones that we made last time. And we're also going to want a couple levers. Now, for transporting the oil back and forth to my base, I could build another complicated railcraft system, but this time I think I'm just going to go with a simple and straightforward ender tank. Sound like a good plan? I think so. So to get an ender tank, what we need is the following: some blaze rods, wool, obsidian, and ender pearl. How are we doing for all that? Blaze rods, I need more of. Okay, so I might need to take a quick trip down to the nether and get myself some more blaze rods. Yeah, I think that's probably a good plan. Oh, by the way, I wanted to show you real quick. I did run some Ender IO cabling here up to this input chest. It's coming from the chest downstairs, so I just kind of tapped into the existing. We had like that Ender IO line going up that was heading towards that chest, so I just decided to have it insert into the chest that the ME system pulls from. It's a little bit, efficient, and it works pretty well. The only thing that we don't have set up yet with our AE system is ore processing. So if we take a look right here, now that our quarry is running again, you'll see I'm starting to get a buildup of ores. We've got lead and gold and silver and stuff. We need to teach our AE system how to process this stuff. And that's something that I'll also probably take care of relatively quickly this episode. So yeah, let me head to the nether. How am I for armor and such? Oh good, I have a pyroclast pendant. That's probably going to be very helpful for fighting those blazes. Alright, let's pop down there and see what we can come up with. I'm going to fight a few blazes. How am I for sharpness? Luck, I've got looting 2. Do I have like a ton of lapis by chance? I might want to bump this guy up to looting 3 if I can. I'm doing pretty good on lapis. I'll just make a stack of blocks here and see what's going to take to upgrade this thing to the top tier of looting. There we go. Shouldn't be too hard. Alright, like I said, I'll come back after I've hunted a few blazes and get myself everything I want to get. Alright, see you guys in just a minute. Alright guys, I think I've got what I need now for an ender tank. I do. Cool. Ink sacks by chance. Let's see. Yeah, I guess I'll grab 6 of these guys. So I'll make 2 ender tanks. And the colors I'm going to pick are going to be pretty obvious. So as we know, ender tanks we can color to match the inventories. So any ender tanks that have the same color code are going to have the same fluid inventory. And I'm going to take these guys, and one of them is going to stay here at the base. The other one is going to come with me and get filled up with oil. So let's head over here. The oil that I found should be in this general direction, not too far. There it is. Pretty nice sized oil field. The larger the oil geyser, the more oil you can expect to have in the giant well of oil that's below here. So there should be a big amount of oil downstairs. Cool. So let's pillar up here with some cobble and cap this thing off with a pump. So step 1 of our design is make sure we have a pump that's placed directly above the oil. There we go. And what we should wind up seeing shortly is a little thing, vacuum suction up thingy, shooting out of there and getting ready to pull the oil up into the pump. The pump needs somewhere to place the oil. That's what the ender tank is for, of course. And then we're going to want some redstone energy things here. Engines, that's what they're called. And these guys do require a redstone signal. They generate a very small amount of RF, but it should be enough. And silly me, I left my levers at home. Oh, rubber wood I can't use. Okay, cool. Well, it looks like I'm heading back to my base. I'll be right back. So here goes nothing. Activate the levers, the redstone engines should start moving, and we should start to see oil getting pulled up from the spout here, and then it'll continue to sink down and get more oil for us. So there we go. Nice. And we can see this ender tank should start having some oil in it as well. Beautiful. It's not the fastest thing in the world, but that's okay because we don't need it to be super fast. Because the oil is going to really go a long way towards power generation. So I'm going to zip back to my base here. There we go. And now that I'm home, I can proceed with creating the next thing we're going to need, which is a refinery. So refineries are what turn oil into fuel. You can use the oil to burn in a lot of different generators, but it's nowhere near as powerful as fuel. For example, I think you get about 10 times as much energy from most generators burning fuel than oil. And it's a 1-to-1 conversion, so it's absolutely worth converting the oil into fuel. The price of this, unfortunately, is a little bit expensive. It's going to require a few diamonds. So what I'm going to do is try and get myself the right ingredients here. So it looks like I can get a gold gear from Thermal Foundation, a pretty easy way. So let's go with 3 refineries for now. So that's going to be 4 diamonds and a gold gear. 1, 2, 3. That shouldn't be too bad. And now I can craft this guy. We're going to need some tanks as well. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these and 9 tanks. Hopefully I've got the glass for it. Nice. I don't know where I got all that glass from, but I'm not going to complain. 3 refineries. Hooray! Refine and redefine. Cool. How am I for diamonds? I'm pretty good. And glass? Not terrible. Cool. Let's set this up downstairs and figure out where I want to design and build this whole thing. Because that's not going to be the easiest thing to come up with. So I'll be back in a minute once I figure out where exactly we're going to build our refinery. I might wind up moving these guys. That's probably a good idea. This should be like my power section over on this wall. And I can move my QED and Enderfluix stuff somewhere else. Anywhere else, doesn't really matter. Maybe right here. This probably would work, right? What if I put these up here? I don't see why not. Cool. Alright, maybe I won't come back. Maybe I'm ready. So let's see. Ender tank. You should have a bunch of oil in you. Nice. Slowly but surely accumulating some oil. That's going to get pumped into our 3 refineries, courtesy of some conduits. So let's get some of those. I've got some pressurized fluid conduits. Let's see if I can make a little bit more of those. Good. We're also going to need some energy conduits because this does require power. And that shouldn't be too bad. Let's get also a tank. What kind of tank should we get? Let's upgrade this portable tank if we can to a hardened portable tank. That'll be able to store 32 buckets worth. I think that's a good reservoir of oil. Cool. So if we wanted to be all nice and fancy about this, so these guys should be getting power now. Well, that's actually coming straight out of there. I probably don't want that. Probably want our power to be coming out of our main power source. So let's remove these guys and tap into up here. Ha! One cable too short, of course. Let's see if I've got the stuff to make any more. Looks like I've got some conductive iron, so that's a good sign. So there we go. Power coming in. Now it's just a matter of pressurized fluid conduits like so. A cool trick is if you take the ender tank here and just right-click that little thing, it'll automatically drain all its oil out. Nice. Now you might have noticed we only have a small amount of oil, and that thing's been running for a while, right? The reason being is it's not chunk loaded. So we've left that area, and it's far enough away from our main base that it's not currently being kept loaded by my player. So we need to get a chunk loader over there. We've got one at the main base. Let's get one made for over there. So let's get a chunk loader ready to go. So that's just one of these with an enchantment table. Do I have any books? I do. Nice. So you'll notice that the oil we got is already starting to be refined, but we're not getting any more oil. That's a problem. So we definitely have to get that thing chunk loaded. So let's take a quick trip over. You'll notice as soon as I get over there, or at least close, it will start pumping again because it'll load those chunks around. So this is a perfect example of why you need chunk loaders in certain areas. So you can see almost no progress has been made since I left. And it never will be made until I load up these chunks. So, real simple chunk loader. You can check your chunk boundaries with F9. We'll place it down a radius of, let's just make it 3. If you want, you can show lasers here and just see, how many chunks are being kept loaded. that should be plenty to ensure that any underground reservoirs of oil are also loaded. So it'll always go up and down, but we want to make sure in case there's like a big drum of oil that's like, huge, we get that loaded too. So that should be good. All right, if we head back to our base now, you can see we're already getting more and more oil. I can probably turn these lasers off, actually. Hide lasers. All right, meet you guys back at the base. So as you guys can see, now that we've chunk loaded, we have a ton of oil back here at the main location. And once all these internal reservoirs fill up, this thing will fill and it'll stop pumping until it needs more, right? So we should be pretty good here. The chunk loader's working. You can see more oil coming in. Nice. And more oil being produced. So yeah, we're definitely filling up these 2 tanks in the back. Now let's think about how we want to power the base courtesy of fuel. So we have 2 options we can go with. There might even be more, but we can go with a compression dynamo, which is this guy. He will produce about 80 RF per tick, and he'll produce 1.5 million RF per bucket of fuel. The other option is the combustion generator, the same thing we used back out at our quarries. That is going to create 60 RF per tick, but the same 1.5 million. So it's a little bit slower. The benefit of the combustion generator, though, is when its internal capacitor fills, it'll automatically turn off and stop using fuel. The compression dynamo, on the other hand, will not automatically turn off and stop using fuel. It'll, just like these guys, get to a point where it's really slows down a bunch, but it doesn't shut off. And you can see even right now we're using lots of power, probably because these 3 things are running, but like I said, we've got power issues. So the question is, do we want to be super efficient but somewhat slower at generating power? If that's the case, then we want to go with combustion generator because it won't use any fuel at all when it doesn't need to. Where the compression dynamo, this guy will use a small, super small amount of fuel, but it generates RF a little bit faster. So let me consider those options, and then we'll be back. Alright guys, made my decision. I decided to go with the compression dynamo. I looked at the math a little bit, and 1.5 million RF over in 80 RF a tick comes out to be about 15 minutes per bucket of fuel. And since it reduces power consumption by 90%, it comes down to about 8 RF instead of 80, that means it'll take about 150 minutes or 2.5 hours to burn through a bucket's worth of fuel when it's quote-unquote wasting the energy. So I figured we got a lot of oil coming in. I don't have to worry that much. And besides, it means now we can go with a good amount of RF per tick. So let's cap these guys off here. Nope, not that one. Come back, you. Here. And right-click with this guy to get him up. There we go. Nice. So now we can see we've got a good amount of power lines, right? So we've got 2 lavas, we've got 3 what's going to be compression dynamos. So what we need to do is tap some water and some fuel in here because these need to be cooled because the amount of heat generated gets a little bit out of hand. So let me get a couple more of these pressurized fluid conduits. I'm going to have to fuse some quartz here. I'll be back in a minute when I'm ready. Oh, and by the way, probably need a little bit more quartz, but let's actually put, and then I also want to check if my capacitors are done. Nice. All right, like I said, back in a minute. All right, so what I'm thinking is maybe these guys here will have this guy here with the tank here, maybe? Does that look cool? Yeah, then we have a good clear indication of how much fluid is left in the tank. To get the oil out, we might need to, let's do this. I'm going to remove these connections. And I'm going to pick this guy up. Want to make sure these don't connect, so let's do that. We'll put this here, here, and here, so that they're all in the same block space, and give this guy a right click again, so oil's flowing through them. Now that oil's flowing through them, we should not automatically connect, and that looks good. And then we can hopefully pump the fuel out the top. Oops, didn't want that. All right, let's do this real quick. Disabled. Now we can flip that back. Cool. That looks good, right? So if we do this, and we say the down direction will extract, there we go, fuel's being pulled out, nice. Extract without, extract without, there we go, nice. Now if we want to kick these things on, all we should have to do is get some water into them too. So to get water over here from this line, which already has a bunch of water coming in, I don't know that I have enough conduits. I'm definitely going to have to go back to the nether. How am I for quartz? Do I have another dozen in there? Yeah, I could do that. This should get us what we need. It's not the prettiest design ever, but oh well. Alright, so this guy currently sitting around half full. Let's get water pumped into the bottom of these. There are conduits that can transfer 2 liquids at a time from Ender.io, but we don't really have the resources to make those just yet, so we're going to hold off. Alright, and then we will probably want to run and we'll disable this on the side. Right click this guy, or this guy maybe is the more accurate one. Hard to do in bat mode. There we go. So that should get water running into these things. Just like how you can toggle this thing by right-clicking here. If you right-click with a wrench, it should auto-export to any pipes below it. So now we should be generating a bit more RF. Nice. So that gives us 80 times 3, a bit more RF to deal with. Cool. 240. More RF per tick, in addition to the 160 that we've got over here. So overall, we've got somewhere around 400 RF per tick coming into the network. Nice. So that means we should have... We're actually probably capping out how much this energy cell can handle. So maybe we want to get a new storage component. So these guys are generating 80 RF per tick. We're actually using 400 RF per tick probably to produce all the fuel that we're producing. But once we have a backlog of fuel, we'll definitely have a power bonus. So let's see, what can these conduits handle? 640, right? So let's upgrade this guy to a new energy cell type. We should probably get the next one up is the electrum one, right? Yeah. So that's going to require some lead and some electrum. And we're going to need a good amount of redstone. Okay, I'm going to head to the nether, get more quartz, and then I'll be back to create a new energy cell. Hopefully by the time I get back from the nether too, we'll have a nice backlog of fuel, and then we'll have tons of power ready for the base to use. Like I said, those those machines that are producing the fuel, they're a little bit expensive power-wise, but they're really not too bad. And overall, you're going to wind up having way more power when you're making fuel. It's just keep in mind there's a little bit of deficit because, you know, you're using power to create the fuel. All right, back in if you need more quartz. So I may not have mentioned this in the past, but one of the downsides to having an AE network is if your power starts to get low in your base, you might have a little bit of a problem accessing your items. I guess a combination of all the different smelting I'm doing now that I'm cooking all this stuff up, I'm getting a little bit low on the power feed. So this guy can only output 400 RF per tick, and we're probably using more than that right now. So we definitely need to upgrade this thing sooner rather than later because, yeah, that's not good. So let's get that done. Looks like this thing's not running because we're low on power, it would seem. And what's our system here? Yeah, we're close to having a backlog of this, which means these things will shut off, which means we'll probably be in better shape. But let's get some stuff going. So let's get some electrum first. Do I have enough for this? I actually may. So let's get a redstone energy cell. First things first, for a redstone energy cell, we need the frame, which looks like we're going to need some hardened glass. So let's get our obsidian. Do I have any in here? I only have 5, but I have a few more downstairs, I'm sure. In here. Cool. Come with me. We're going to start grinding this up in our pulverizer. And we need to combine that with some lead. And you know what? That reminds me, I have to get my ores taken care of this episode too, don't I? Don't let me forget to do that, guys. Just be like, hey, Dyer, don't forget ores. Alright, so that's 2 hardened energy. Or, yeah, you know what I mean. 2 hardened glass, and now 4. And that should be the required amount to get this thing made. Now, the only thing you can do with this is fill it with 40 redstones worth of destabilized redstone. So let's go get our... That's the induction. Here's the magma crucible. We're going to start cooking up all the liquid redstone that we need. So yeah, you can see the internal buffer dumping. That's because we're low on power at the moment. Definitely got to handle this like right now. So while that's running... What else is required for the hardened energy cell? We're just going to need some electrum and a redstone conductance coil. I'll make sure that this is all ready to go. So we just need the leadstone conduct this thing. And how are you done? Almost quite there. I might use that hardened energy cell for something else. I have an idea that might make things a little bit more efficient with my quarry back out in the area, and I might use the hardened energy cell for that purpose. Alright, now that we've got the 4,000 millibuckets of destabilized redstone here, we'll wait for this thing to fill up. I'm going to get this guy ready, because we like really need this almost pretty badly at this point. There we go, everything but the cell in the middle. Cool. The frame is ready. You go in here. And then we can just replace this thing with that. And we're going to tell it to accept from the bottom and output to the top. So that's the only connections we have, right? Yeah. And now we should have some energy going in there. So what do we got? 640 over 5 seconds. Wow. Okay. So the 640 makes sense, right? Because we've got, well, no, that should be, we shouldn't have 640 coming in. Yeah, wow, we're actually using quite a lot of power now, aren't we? So are these all off now? They are. Probably because they're all just dying, choking on power. You can see there's no internal buffer here, so, I mean, they're off, but... Let's give this thing a few minutes to kind of stabilize our network. You can see we can do 2,000 RF per tick, but our cables are not capable of doing that. They're only capable of doing 640. So we might want to upgrade our cables. 5,000 RF per tick is what can run through the enhanced energy conduits from Ender.io. Those require 3 vibrant alloys each, which are not terribly expensive. Could probably look into replacing these things. I should probably replace them now, sooner rather than later, really. And maybe I'll want a few more compression dynamos too. We'll see. Alright, I'll be back in a minute once our network stabilizes. Yep, you can see power issues. Can't access anything. Yikes. As you guys can see, I've just requested a bunch of alloys from my AE network. And courtesy of AE, they're all being produced. So I decided to upgrade my power line. 640 RF per tick is probably right at the limit of what we're going to need to be using soon. So we might as well bump these guys up to the next tier of power level. Our base is still producing tons of, or using tons of power thanks to all these new machines and stuff. Also, the magmatic dynamo, pretty expensive. It's trying to fill itself back up now. So back in a few once this thing's done cooking, but let's at least produce more power if we can. So let's see. I've got compression dynamos here. I'm going to need a few more pressurized fluid conduits, which should not be bad because after my trip to the Nether, I've got a bunch of this stuff. Woot. Oh boy. We're low on conduit binders. Binder composite. Needs more sand. Alright, back in a minute. Alright, so this should be pretty easy to hook up. Check this out. Just going to do this, which give me the compression dynamos here. This will have to eventually be the new energy conduit, so let's see if we've got enough alloy. We should to get the new energy conduits. This thing should be done cooking up these. Alright, I've got a stack's worth. That works for me. So let's remove these from here first. And replace them all with this. Now the only way we're going to get this pumped in is from the top. So luckily, we can do this. There we go. That should work for the most part, but it's not. Why not? Oh, right. Wrench that guy. There we go. Cool. Can you not accept liquids from the top? That would be frustrating. Oh, that would stink, compression dynamos. Not cool. Okay, yep, that's the problem then. Alright, let me reconfigure this then altogether. If I pick up these compression dynamos, let's see if they will retain their internal tanks. They do their energy, but not their liquid. That's unfortunate. Alright, let me come up with a better way to generate power here. One sec. Looks like we get to try out our Ender fluid conduits. So, really? No more fused quartz? Alright. Get a little bit more of this stuff. It's funny how fast you go through it. Maybe 8 will be enough, but if not, I can make a few more. Not a big deal. So what I should be able to do with this is the following. Let's jump into bat mode. I purposely had this tank disabled because I wanted to make sure these conduits were empty. And this will work for me then. So if we go down here and replace these, 1, 2, come on, clear out. I'm going to place a tank right here. That'll just be a buffer in between, one and the other. Then we can have our ender fluid conduits here, here, here. And we want to make sure that this thing is set on the bottom so you can do all kinds of crazy stuff with ender fluid stuff. Auto extract without signal, always active, we'll just say. That should keep these things full of water. 1, 2, 3. So if we place down our compression dynamos now here, they should all start filling up with water correctly. Beautiful. And I think I'm going to move this guy down right here. This will probably be the most efficient way of handling this. If I tell this guy here and give this guy a hit, what should happen is the water and the fuel should all work. Nice, look at that. Cool. So that works. We can see we're producing power now, and we can tap into that power with this thing. So those ender pipes are pretty awesome. The only downside, like I said, is they're pretty expensive, but you know, not too bad, not prohibitively expensive. Now all I have to do is just reconnect this thing and wrench it. There we go. Cool. And you're flowing back into here, and everybody's happy once again. What I'm going to do off camera now is replace all the conduits in my base with the new higher tier energy. So we should be producing lots of energy now. Yes, we're using you know, quite a bit of power, but that's okay. I'm going to start swapping this all out. And I'll do it in bat mode because it'll be easier for me to navigate these small little tunnels. Back in a few, once I've replaced all this line. Unfortunately, this isn't terribly easy to do, but it's also not too bad. 1, 2, 3. Okay, like I said, back in a minute. Alright, looks like things are finally settling down around here. My oil refineries have backlogged themselves, which means they've stopped running. They'll turn on every now and then to produce a little bit of oil as, or a little bit of fuel as the compression dynamos use them. Our energy cell is quickly filling up. Our current power usage is sitting right around like 80 to 100 maybe. So yeah, we definitely have plenty of power for the time being with the you know, several things we've got going on here. The only power line I haven't replaced just yet is this one that leads all the way over to my farms and such. What I was thinking I could do, if we jump back into bat mode here, we've got these. This one leads over to my Tesseract, which is used for teleporting back and forth to the location. This is the machines here. Altogether, these things shouldn't be using too much power. If you want to, you know, leave your old stuff because I'm running low on enhanced energy conduit and I don't want to run them all the way over to the farm there, I could just tap this guy down, the old hardened energy cell I had. I can always make a new one for that neat idea that I had. And we'll just disable all these. So input from this side, that'll keep it full, and then it outputs out the bottom, that'll power everything else, and then we can have the old cheaper cable not being, you know, having to be upgraded to the enhanced energy conduit. That should be fine. So our base is still powering it, right? Like we're feeding power into the cell, and it's acting as a buffer in between like the higher voltage cable and the lower voltage cable, if you will. Now I said I was going to hook up something so that we can get our ore processing this episode, but it looks like I can't just yet because it's unfortunately wrapping up point. So for now, Direwolf 20 signing off. Hope you guys enjoyed the episode. It ran a little bit long, I know, but usually you guys don't complain too much about that, so I think you'll be okay. We'll come back next episode. Now that we've got a slightly better power system, and I should probably sleep through the night before I go visiting my quarry. Now that we've got a slightly better power system, we can consider doing an alternate power source for our quarry. So next episode, maybe what I'll do is upgrade our quarry power so that it can use a different power source than we're currently using, because while transferring liquids out there is a good plan, it's not a great plan because we're quickly, as you can see, running low on those liquids. The rocket fuel is burning up pretty quickly. Yeah, we're doing all right in terms of our, you know, quarrying, but it could be faster. And since we have all this power back at our main base now, we should find a way to get it here. All right, take it easy, guys.